Welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson is all about measurements. Your tape has two sides. One side is for the centimeter reading, while the other side is for the inch reading. Today we are working on the inch side of the tape, as you can see here. Now your tape is read from 0. So this point here, you have 0 to 1. And then 2, 3, and so on. So the best way for me to read the measuring tape is to read in fractions. So if you see here, you see there normally is a metal tape at the beginning here. So this is a fresh tape. I haven't opened this up. So you see what the metal tape looks like. Sometimes the tape here covers your reading or the measurements you have at the beginning there. So I always take this off. I always take this off. You see what's going on here now. This is not even complete. So we have 1/8 missing. Okay, so this is why I take this off. Like this won't give you an accurate measurement. Sometimes you take this off, you find out that you have more than an inch. It goes beyond 0. So that is what happens when sometimes you take this and then you measure and you find out that you either have more than what you thought you measured or less when you start to make your patterns. Okay, let's go back to today's lesson. Okay, so if you look on this paper now, I have a diagram. And this is what your inch looks like on the measuring tape. So I'm going to show you the tape now. So you can see from 0 to 1. What I've just done is to magnify this so that you see how it actually is when you make it bolder. All right, so we have here 0 to 1, just like we have on the measuring tape. And if you take a look at this, for instance, you're taking a measurement. When your measurement falls on the inch, of course, it's easy for you to say, okay, this is 1 inch. But what if you're taking a measurement and you find out that if you take it to the whole inch, it is too tight and the measurement has to fall in between? Of course, if it falls on this second line here, we can comfortably say, okay, it is 1/4 of an inch. If it falls in the middle, that is half the inch. And then if it falls on this other line here, it is 3/4 of the inch. So these other lines have divided the whole inch into 4. And of course, the one in the middle is dividing it into 2, which is making it half. I have worked with so many people, students and even tailors who work with me, and I find out that I tell them to measure, and sometimes they find it difficult to read the measurements in between, and they tend to round it up to the next whole inch. Now, the danger in this is if you, for instance, fall in between any of these markings and you round it up to the next whole inch, you may end up having a garment or a cloth or dress that is larger or bigger than the measurement you have taken. So you see that some people, they finish making clothes and they have to slim it down or find a way to adjust it to fit. Sometimes you lose the shape of the project or the garment that you have made in this way. So how do you read this? Like I said, this is 0, this is 1/4, this is half, this is 3/4, and then you have 1 inch. To further break it down, you find that these lines in between also can be read. Now your inch has 8 spaces in between. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to number them. 0, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, So that is it. So looking at this, you find that when you come here, the space between 0 and this first line here is an eighth of an inch. So we've divided the whole inch into 8 by these smaller lines here. Okay, so this we can just say 1/4. That's a quarter of the whole inch. And then we move on to the next line. If your measurement falls on this line, this can be read as 3/8 of an inch. Of course, you have half. So this just shares the whole inch in two like that. And then we cross over. If the tip of your tape falls on number 5 here, we can comfortably say that is 5/8 of an inch or 5/8. All right. So we move on. Then you have 3/4. The next line there, you can comfortably say this is 7/8 of the inch. This can further be divided into 16 parts. Like if you look at this ruler here, if you look closely at the tip of the ruler there, you see that my ruler, it has been divided into even 32 smaller lines for ease of reading. So you can further divide until you cover up the whole spaces in the inch. So now I am going to show you what if you decide to go further. So you can read in between the lines because sometimes your measurements can fall in between the lines. So if you do this, then you're going to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 until you end up with 16 here. All right. So I'm going to give you an example of situations where your tape can give you measurements in between. So this is really helpful for pattern drafters because sometimes when you have to create your patterns and you've gone ahead to divide your circumferences by 4, you find out that you're getting smaller measurements. Okay, and now you want to read and draft accurately. So I'm going to do a small calculation with my tape. So there is an easy way we do it. So instead of using a calculator or trying to solve it on your own, for instance, if I have a circumference of 22 and a half and I have to divide this by 4, you need to divide by 4 most of the time so that you can draft the quarter of each panel of your patterns, for instance, for a bodice or a skirt. So let's take a situation whereby I have to divide 22 inches by 4. So this is what I do. I have my 22 at this point here. So no, we're doing 22 and a half rather. Okay, so I want to just show you how we get into these smaller lines and how we read them accurately. 22 and a half. So I'm going to divide 22 and a half with my tape. Okay, the tip of the tape at the back of the 22 and half mark. So I'm going to fold that. Fold it at this point here, the middle point. I press it so that I have the crease. So when I open up, you see the crease line there. So I'm going to divide again. So you get 2 and then you divide again. So we have divided by 4. I press it again to get the crease there and you find, you see? So what do we have here? If you were going to read this, how would you read it? So looking at my diagram here, you find that we have 5 and 5/8 of an inch. So if you're going to mark this, for instance, you're doing your bodies or skirt pattern, you can comfortably mark this and say, okay, I have 5/8 of 5 and 5/8 of an inch. So this is how this works. So something happens when I sometimes ask my students or tailors who work with me, measure that and tell me how much, what do you have for your measurement there? And they said, I have five. And I say, how do you read it? And then you find out that they are struggling. Okay. So every single marking on your tape on the inch side can be read. So your tape might not have all the markings. Some tapes have the markings, but if your tape doesn't have all the marking, just go ahead and read. So five, you can have, if you have your tip or the measurement fall in between this line, what you have here is 5 inch and 1/16 in between there. So here I have another diagram. So basically the same thing, what I've been trying to explain. You have 0, 1 inch, and then 2 inches. And this is how the inch is read. So here we have 1 inch and 1/8, 1 inch and a quarter, 1 inch and 3/8, 1 inch and a half, an inch and 5/8, 1 inch and 3/4, 1 inch and 7/8, and then 2 inches. Okay, so down there you're just saying that this has further been broken down by 16, and you can still have it broken down by 32 like I said. So this is magnified, that's why you can see the space look bigger. So that is it for reading your your measuring tape accurately. I hope today's lesson has at least taught us how to read our tape. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, subscribe and please click on the notification bell so that you can see our videos whenever they come up. Bye.